So we'll see what maps we will head to today, or map rather we will head to today. That is something that we're going to have to unlearn, as this is a best of one. And as for bans, for both Supremacy and Millenium, there's going to be 2 maps that get banned out, and we'll see in just a second which ones those will be, which will once again narrow that map pool down to 5, and it will be Border and Oregon. We saw Oregon twice yesterday. We saw Border once. So
and 4 times the day before that.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Border.
It's a pretty good map. It's actually a super balanced map, and with the bans, it completely changes the way you play it. You've got Jaeger bans that are happening on it, which means that grenade play is suddenly even stronger than what you usually see. That's Skylight throwing into Office, even better. But we'll look at our first ban as Bank will be removed. Consulate will be map number 2 out of the running. New Clubhouse, at this point just Clubhouse will be removed. Villa out in Coastline yet again. You know what?
Twice.
I like me some sunny Spain, so...
you dig the map, so Coastline again.
Tease me about having the same 4 map. Having the 4 maps being the same one. I can go with Coastline any day of the week.
The other interesting thing is that we consistently see Villa being the last ban. So it's getting to the point where teams know it's going to get banned, and it's do you blink or do you not? Yeah. You're given the power where you could totally surprise your team, because so far, most of the Villa bans that I've seen, at least, and that at least pop into my mind, are happening in one of the final 2 bans, meaning that teams just assume it's a foregone conclusion. We saw Skyscraper inhabit that same role. A lot of times Skyscraper would be one of the last maps banned because both teams knew they were going to ban it. You don't need to waste an early ban on it. Same with Villa here. So who knows? Maybe we might see a particular matchup where they have 2 matches. They say, you know what? Let's take them to Villa.
Yeah.
So Coastline is going to be our match for the day, though. So our second time here on Coastline.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Coastline, a very balanced map. We saw all 4 bomb sites be played on a previous matchup.
That is correct.
So
Hookah once, double bars twice, kitchen twice, penthouse 3 times.
Look at that.
So there you go. And I would imagine that the bans are probably not going to look the same. Ashglaz, Mira, and Jaeger. I would not be surprised to see
targeted.
That was to take away from Alive and push them onto another operator, which is fine. And we'll see how they do this this time around here for the team. Yeah.
Honestly, you play against Millenium, you don't ban Mira, Blackbeard, and or Dokkaebi.
Yeah.
You better be really good at either Blackbeard or Dokkaebi yourself, or you'll be giving Millenium a huge advantage. And
we, once again, pull you at the start of every single matchup, and we say, who do you think is going to win? Now, given the fact that the French fan base is probably going to be very particular about this, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Millenium being the team to do it, especially given the result that we saw from Supremacy yesterday. Not too much of a surprise to see Millenium at 81% to 19%. Once again, very similar to the same scoreline that we saw in the Latin America matches, being a pretty large margin between the 2 teams.
Yeah, it's 13%, I think, is the lowest we've had. So, that's one thing.
12%. 12% for Boot Camp, who won, by the way.
Yeah. That was a huge upset. The fact that FaZe lost them.
And then 13% for Team 1, who defeated NIP. So it's been a very interesting season for the community votes so far
honestly,
to know what the community thinks. And
look at the matchups. They've been very close, even with lower class teams overall playing against the big dogs. This is what I love about this.
It's a byproduct of the best of 1 series as well as the targeted operator bans. But we are all ready to go back to Coastline. So the map that I like, the map that you like, we get to see yet again.
Yeah, we can talk about Coastline quite a bit because, before we were getting into sort of a standardized meta on Coastline where, Ying has smokes, you go into the Hall of Fame, you chuck in your smokes against the Mira, you push in. Well, now you can't do that no more, which means everything's going to change, especially with the bans coming in. We'll see the first one removed from Millenium. That'll be Glaz. So Supremacy, I wonder who they'll remove. I'm looking at Blackbeard, and it's an instant pick from Supremacy. So what will it be? Blackbeard, not surprising at all. You play against Renshiro, you cannot give him a Blackbeard. You're basically gimping yourself.
And he's also very, very strong on 2 of the sites on this map. So especially if you have him positioned on that big window, very difficult to dislodge him. It's a position that we've seen a number of very good Blackbeards play off of. Renshiro could possibly be one of the best Blackbeards in the world, of course, competing with really the only other consistent Blackbeard that we tend to see now is, is Bosco. So it's always tough to tell, but of course previously, you had King George, who had incredible stats on Blackbeard. You had Laxing, who had incredible stats on Blackbeard. You had Pengu, who had incredible stats on Blackbeard. So we'll see, but Mira and Maestro will be the 2 final bans, so at least 2 of the previous 4 will be banned out, but Ashe and Jaeger will be free. And would you look at that, it's immediately a Jaeger being played because you know how crucial he is on that grenade play.
Yeah, and with the Ying being picked by DeJeus from Supremacy, Jaeger is obviously going to be even more important. Remind you that ever since the mid-season reinforcement of Season 7 during Pro League, Hibana does not burn the Jaeger ADSs anymore with her X-Kairos, so it's pretty much a buff to the Jaeger, which means you can't just go in and with her last X-Kairos extinguish all 3 ADSs in one fell swoop.
We saw it. It was most prevalent on Cafe through that skylight. You usually have 2 ADSs situated underneath. If you had a thermite with you or if your attack really didn't involve bringing that hard destruction, you could easily expend 1 set of her 3 charges to effectively render Jaeger useless and give a lot of empowerment to your Buck or your potential Sledge or your IQ on attack with those frag grenades. So Rise setting up the ADSs in position to try and catch right now a push from a multitude of angles. That one that he had just set up as an ADS on the side of the cabinet facing the doorway to kitchen will prevent a push in through the kitchen door, which is what we just saw from the Mockit IDK match, was where Mockit was favoring the push from.
Supernova on the Echo, just adding a bit more firepower to set up early on in the round. And, since there is no Mira, you want to have that extra bit of shotgun power to blast through a lot of the soft walls. There are a ton of them playing on Coastline.
It's been very interesting now, and in a usual sense with Maestro, you would wonder if part of the reason why an Echo would run that shotgun is because you've got the additional ACOG. Usually when you only had 3 ACOGs on defense, of course the Rook-Dog combo, and then in addition to the Echo, it was too good to give up the ACOG on the Echo. But with Maestro in play, you could potentially do that. He's banned in this matchup, however, so it's interesting to see that being the choice for the team.
The important part would be the pulse to play from below. That'll be the addition. You don't really need to worry if you can just blow them up, from the stairs, or if you're playing really inside of the site and you happen to know, predict the pushes of your opponents. Here we go. Rise, easy kill on Frisco, turns it into a 5v3. That's now the 2, the Ying and the Buck being removed. The IQ trying to find the Echo as the Yokai will get taken down. Living very aggressive on the cool vibe stairs, but he'll fall back. As you see, Millenium always on the move.
And they're going to continuously rotate. You had both Yogurts as well as Rise playing deep off-site. K6 trying to challenge inside a Sunrise bar. That's where the pulse was positioned of Hicks as he's fallen back now into the hallway by Cool Vibe stairs and essentially given up all of that Sunrise bar. Alfama, seeing that blue bar is also clear, will run in, and he'll get a kill on the Hicks, so the Pulse, who was playing by the doorway, will get dispatched early on. You don't want to be losing a Pulse with still 1.5 minutes to go, because that heartbeat sensor comboed with that Nitro Cell can be so important, not just for you as an operator, but the rest of your team.
Yeah, I wonder how the crossbow bolts will be used by Alfama if Supremacy even set up for a push. Remember, they're down in manpower, and Millenium still have an extra Yokai, if I'm not mistaken. So makes things, yeah, there we go. It's set up upstairs, so they can rotate it back down, and that's exactly what they're going to start doing. Renshiro, very good communication between all the players on the team. You see K6 coming around with the IQ in the security room as Yogurts will take control of the main skyline, the courtyard. Looking through the connections by the cool vibe stairs as well with the Capital. Not able to find anybody just yet. Renshiro just relaying all that info, and K6 with a peek gets the kill on Yogurts to turn into a 3v3.
That was a beautiful shot, but the one thing is still Rise. He's now worked his way to the bottom of Cool Vibe stairs. Liven will shred Alfama, leaving just K6 and Anthrax left. But Rise is there to capitalize on a push. All he needs to do is know that somebody is coming his way. K6 working in a beautiful shot onto Liven inside of that kitchen side of delivery. Rise will drop, he'll shred Anthrax, looking for one more as K6 will get spotted, and Rise starts things off with a 4K. Excellent beginning for him, and that Jaeger, just a beautiful beautiful ability to work his way around the map, getting kills all over the place, and just unable to find exactly where Rise was going. Not saves the round for his team, but definitely secures the victory, and Millenium will take round number 1.
Yeah, Supremacy always on their toes that entire round. Millenium kept moving around the map, maneuvering their operators every position that would give them an advantage, and at the end, if it meant that they had to go through into the courtyard itself, well, so fine. If you have somebody like Rise that is always ready to rise to the occasion, well, it's definitely an asset that you need to use, and we've seen Rise in tournaments. We've seen him, playing in Atlantic City. We'll highlight Austin as well. He was always a player to look out for, even though when you come in, the big highlights for you would be Livin, Renshiro, and Yogurts. He's still no slouch himself.
I hope people appreciate the rise to the occasion pun that you just pulled off effortlessly. They need to get it. I hope they got it. I think you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Thank you very much. I'm the first one to ever use it.
Really? I don't know if that is...
No, I don't know. Played the first game.
We're going to go over to Hookah and start things off for round number 2. This was the scene of where we saw some particularly feisty Echo play, especially from Millenium. I believe it was Rise, actually, who was doing it, if I recall correctly, using the Echo underneath the pool table and popping up to get the blast onto the planter. That was, however, when Echo only had 1 drone and had 3 charges, so you have 3 opportunities to pop them out of the plant. Now it's a little bit different. So the changes to Echo with his 2 drones, they have 2 charges each. So in total, you've got 1 extra charge. However, it takes longer to replenish that charge. So you can't consistently rely on 1 yokai to do the job. Sometimes you might need 2 of them. And we've seen some very innovative play from the way that certain Echo players have dispatched those yokai, using one particularly off-site, maybe to go scouting, maybe have one holding down a choke point, maybe keep one on site. We've seen some teams use it to potentially pop up through hatches for just a second to get some information, sort of like a mobile Valkyrie camera. So it's been intriguing to see the different way that teams have used it. Of course, there was the Supernova that was being run last time around, and that also is not something that we see every day on an Echo. Usually you'd have that smoke or the Mira sidearm work. In this case, there is no Mira, so you have to rely on the smoke to have the shotgun.
I think it's a lot more site reliant as well. A site that offers you clean lines of sight, and you're not really in need of a lot of support shotgun play to set up the site. You kind of can forego it and just go for your standard MP5 with an ACOG because, there's no way around it. It's a very, very strong weapon to use, especially with how controllable it is. You're really looking for headshots, and that's more often than not what you're going to be hitting with the Echo.
I don't know if you just saw what
just
happened.
Popped up through it.
But
oh my god.
He used the yokai drone and he drove at one of the attacker's drones, and the attacker shot their own drone instead of the yokai drone, and Renshiro was able to get it away. He will use one of those blasts to hit K6 as he works his way in through that guitar hall, and will be joined by Crisco as the IQ and Buck will meet up just by VIP. They're still looking to see the yokai. We weren't able to tell if it got away to safety or not, but it's still sitting up there, and it will miss K6, who's trying to find where the yokai is. It was positioned on the doorway, but it'll scoot off, and Renshiro uses it to reposition.
K6 at least has a bit more line of sight to look through into the bar by the fish tank there in the back. He already had Anthrax on the Habana opening up lines of sight from the top floor. Just looking down from the roof. Livin, oddly enough, still downstairs in the Sunrise bar. He might just be looking for a potential side attack, but there we go. He'll lock it out. Okay, scope will go down. That's no more Buck. Losing the grenades as well as Supremacy.
And they did the bunch of work with the yokai drone, which right now Renshiro, he'll finally lose one of them, but all successful as they were able to take out the Buck. 2 from Supremacy as Anthrax picks up a double on the Hicks and Rise, and immediately Millenium will now need to get back to site and work hard on coalescing towards that B site, which is where the push is going to be on the A site, rather. They have worked their way into B. Dijous will take out Yogurts, and now it's a 4v2. Millenium, with Liven working very far off site, in addition to Renshiro, working quite well, but there's only 10 seconds to go, and the attackers trying to get inside of sight. Plant going down amidst the chaos of the Ying, trying to outduel from a long range. Liven will lose that fight, and it's all up to Renshiro, who will not have the ACOG, will have to rely solely on the bearing. He'll get a down, but in the meantime get traded off by K6, and Supremacy will immediately even things out at the end of that second round. So really showing that a lot of investment being made from Millenium into the roam there, but didn't quite have the support on site that they needed.
Yeah, losing well, both roamers to the Habana definitely was not part of the plan, that's for sure. But the Echo losing the yokai early on, at least one of the two yokais early on, hampered him a bit, because you mentioned this at the start, talking about the balance changes for Echo. To recharge a new charge on the yokai, it takes 20 seconds. That is a lot of time, and you can't really play the Echo like you could before. Even with 10 seconds left on the clock, it would still be more than enough to get the plant down. You need now the help around the Echo, not just him solo, especially when he has to deal with 3 or 4 players.
And he was doing a good job with Liven too. Downstairs, you saw that the Ella was working with the drone, looking to try and find where the entry was going to come. They started off well by picking off the buck, but Supremacy rebounded with a lot of grace, and they were able to make sure that Anthrax picking off 2 roamers who were both stacked up and looking in the wrong direction, while Anthrax himself wasn't in any particular danger. That was a big gift to Supremacy, and whether they planned that entry to work that way with the Hibana, I mean, it worked out. And the other thing, too, with Hibana is I know that we've been very critical of teams that have been banning her as of late because her utility is so sorely missed in a lot of rounds.
She's good.
She's very good, but she also has a high amount of fragging potential.
Oh, yes.
Her Type 89 as well as the Bearing 9 are both 2 exceptional weapons. She's a 3-speed. She's got flashbangs, as most teams are going to bring flashbangs rather than the breaching charges. And because of this, she's able to pick up kills quite quickly, and that's exactly what we saw. Anthrax got 2 within the span of, I think, 3 seconds, and that was instrumental towards Supremacy bouncing back in that round.
You look at only the weapons of the Habana, and you're like, wow, this is pretty good. We should probably use her more often. And then you realize, oh, I still get X-Kairos that take down reinforced walls? Yep. Great. So that's the thing. She is a hard breacher that has a ton of utility, and then once that is expended, can still use stun grenades to burn ADSs, can still use 2 extremely powerful weapons to play the frag game.
And she becomes one of the best fraggers in the game. In addition to Ashe and in addition to potentially Twitch, maybe even Zofia now, as Zofia's worked her way up there, as all 4 of those ladies are really, really good at just killing people dead. Now, one of the things that I'm very interested in is this setup that we can see from Millenium, and the way that they have used these castle barricades to essentially box off VIP as they play inside of the double bars downstairs. So look at all this investment up top to try and keep control over the site. They've got 1 castle reinforcement on VIP, they've got 1 downstairs on Kitchen, and they're essentially trying to funnel Supremacy towards Cool Vibe stairs. They're basically trying to keep them from getting in from the exterior and try to work their way towards those Cool Vibe stairs and then be able to contain them from that point on.
Yeah, they realize that if they allow for a push to happen via Aquarium, it'll make things a lot more difficult for them. Rise playing with a tiny angle downstairs is prone on the floor. It's a lot of damage done onto Crisco. That'll definitely slow things down for Supremacy. We see even Alfama on the Capitao takes quite a bit of damage and quick engagement against Livin with the Ella. And Livin will just fall back. Is he gonna actually take this down? Yes, he will. Still has the support, at least to lock it down with some with a quick wooden barricade. Is that a camera on the floor? Not sure. Maybe I'm delusional.
it was hard to tell with the swaps that were going on there. So essentially what they've done with this strategy though, Gassan, is they, oh, that's rough for Dijus. He will miss at least the Yokai Blast. K6 gets 1, Rise will get another, and through the mist, we'll try to see if the Ying can connect. She can't, but Anthrax can, and that will be Rise dispatched, still giving an advantage to Supremacy as they now hold a numerical advantage. They've lost the Jaeger in the castle for Millenium, while Alfema is down, and of course, as the Capitao, those asphyxiating bolts, as well as the smoke bolts could be really effective. And there's no smokes left on the board for Supremacy either.
Gotta be careful with that. The Echo is set in the Sunrise bar. It's a very strong position for him because it's very difficult to push against him, especially when the smoke's already defending the entrance. You talked about funneling the opponents into Cool Vibe stairs. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. The flashes are coming out from the Habana. This Anthrax is potentially looking for the kill on the smoke. Hicks has already fallen back, but can he watch the second angle from Blue Bar? Anthrax moving it in. as K6 will get one on like 4v2, but 3 seconds left on the clock. 2 kills on a flurry here from Millenium. The shotgun from Hicks. He'll spot the second, and Hicks with the 3K to save the round at the end of it. And that is how you defend Sunrise Bar. You hear me, Mockit? This is how you do it.
And what a shot around that final post to get the 3K. And we often say triple kill to denote a 3K. Usually we'll quarrel over, a triple kill needs to happen within a very short period of time. But oh baby, a triple indeed. And that was Hicks performing miracles inside a Sunrise Bar. That is an incredible hold from him to be able to wear down Supremacy. And I gotta say, exactly what Millenium wanted to happen, happened. They killed a lot of time. They had to funnel in towards Sunrise Bar. The Buck did great work from above and then was able to get onto the site too. And that was control that I think Millenium was aiming to not lose. But you still had Hicks there to basically save the day for the team. As that ship was going down, he was able to bail them all out and get them all to safety, and Millenium gifted a round that probably Supremacy should have felt comfortable taking home.
When they had that huge advantage, then again, the positioning from Millenium, knowing when to fall back and holding those angles close, and the hallway, you talked about funneling them through one place. They all funneled in to push through the stairs and the Sunrise Bar. You play against the shotgun up close when there's still an Echo with Yokai available, yeah, you're not going to have an easy time through there.
Unbeknownst to us, K6 is leading his team at the moment with 5 kills. Has very quietly assembled these performances with, I would say, mostly impactful frags. This is something that I think at some point we will have to get a very objective definition on as to whether a frag is impactful even if you still lose the round. I say that there are still impact frags even if you lose the round, but I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But as for K6, he did a lot of work in particular in that previous round to be able to keep it close with Millenium and then take that advantage and run with it. And disappointment, I'm sure, of him for his team is it certainly wasn't up to him as to why that team lost. You saw the way that Hicks played it with the SMG-11. He was able to take K6 down, and then the other two that pushed in, both the Buck and the Hibana, were soon after. So we'll see what goes on moving forward. But for Supremacy, it's really up to K6 at the moment, as he's been a star for the team. If he goes cold at any point, the rest of the team's going to have to find their legs in order to make it so that it's not just a knockout punch by Millenium.
A crapshoot.
A real slobber knocker. A heck of a haymaker, you know?
Barn burner, that's for sure.
There have been a lot of barns that have been burnt over the last little while, I'll tell you that much.
Last couple months, yeah, definitely have been.
Hicks has taken a lot of damage downstairs in Sunrise Bar, as once again they're going to be on the main floor of Kitchen. Rise will pick up his 6th kill as Crisco will be the opening frag. Just under a minute in, and the Buck is already eliminated. Crisco was instrumental in that round at in the previous round, putting a lot of vertical pressure on the site, forcing Millenium to have to commit to move away from their well-held positions. You can see the Yokai drone doing work as Liven will smoke this cool vibe stairs, and he will retreat into Kitchen alongside of his allies.
They're using that pulse here to make things easy. Unfortunately for Yogurts, he gets a bit too aggressive on the Legion. Goes down, of course. Legion is one of those operators that get much, much stronger as the round goes in. If you use the goo mines, so I wonder how many is deployed. Probably at this point 4 goo mines.
Probably 4 to 5 at this point, yeah.
Probably maybe had one in the pocket there as he died, but still it's a pretty big loss at the end, because when you're trying to funnel your opponents through the cool vibe stairs and then down into the Kitchen, having goo mines will definitely slow them down.
Yeah, and I mean, like we've said many, many times, you can use Legion in a number of ways, either on-site or off-site. Unfortunate to lose Yogurts this early on. Rise has taken some damage as well as Hicks. So as for Millenium, they are much more of a weakened team, even though they hold the same numbers as Supremacy. Supremacy have been running that Capitao with I suppose, over and over and over again, hoping to get better results, but have not seen much of an impact out of his gadget. And I think that the smokes are obviously a concerted effort, but Alfama has died early enough on that we haven't been able to see him use it. I wouldn't be too surprised to possibly see him try to go for a smoke at the doorway and then go for a push in alongside Anthrax, but they're going to need to find their footing real quickly, as there's only 30 seconds left. Iju's watching the Kitchen window, will open it up, sets down a Claymore in case there's going to be a push, as we've seen from IDK run that, and then of course you'll have to have those Candelas go out. But they are running at a time very, very quickly.
Yeah, Shoes will have to throw in his Candelas. Important from Millenium that they've already opened up half the wall for themselves, but Supremacy will come in. That's 2 kills for them versus the already weakened Millenium. However, Renshiro is still on site. 4 seconds left on the clock as the diffuser will get set, and the kill will go the way of Livin. 2v2, but K6 is down on the floor. He's already been removed from the equation. Anthrax is still alive on the Hibana, and potential victory here for Millenium if they can deal with Anthrax that are just, well, trying to give them a taste of their own medicine. Diffuser set up so close, they'll need to play together. Important here, see the push. Livin holding in with the shotgun in hand. On the opposite angle, the Hibana will get 1 kill, moves up for the kill with the shotgun. He'll land it, and Livin might have just clutched the round as he has more than enough time to make this one happen. Millenium, a beautiful bit of teamwork at the end, playing every single angle to their advantage, and that will be that. Millenium puts the 3rd round on the board.
Almost a miss from Livin there as he got the shot on the Hibana. Obviously thinking that he'd gotten the down as he went in a bit more aggressively to try to finish off what he thought was Hibana finished off, but really it was just her pivoting on the ground in a prone motion, looking like he had gotten her into that downed position. So almost lost it, but still the captain of Millenium being able to stick the landing, and then yeah, he had at least a quarter on that diffuser still to go, and that is plenty of time. It only takes, like we've said, 7 seconds, and didn't have too much of a challenge to be able to get back. I was wondering the way that Anthrax was going to play that, playing on the Cool Vibe stairs, sitting, watching. You could tell that Millenium really didn't know where he was, and once they checked all of their angles, mostly through Courtyard and then into Sunrise Bar and through the window out towards Poolside, they knew that probably the only place he could be would be the bar in Sunrise Bar or Cool Vibes, and that's exactly how they played it. They stacked up waiting for rotate from that angle, and that's where Livin was situated. So no matter what, that Hibana was going to find herself in a really uncomfortable position.
Yeah, the only thing is that you see the whole wall from the kitchen looking into the hallway. Half of it was blown up, well, at least below, and it was destroyed even looking all the way to the doorway. So Livin could have even been spotted through that hole if the Hibana had maneuvered in a bit of a more open position. But then again, that's not really up to you because you don't really have a ton of information. If you're on the Hibana there's no drones that have been set up. The unfortunate thing is that the Candelas were just not really enough to blind the defenders. They pushed them back a bit, but very smartly from Millenium, not over-committing, holding close angles to make sure that they down as many of their opponents as possible before going for the retake.
Yeah, so once again, it's the story of Coastline seems to be the retake, and that has been, for all of these teams, not just Mockit, but also IDK, and now Millenium, a really proud point for them. We haven't seen Supremacy be able to pull off a retake just yet, because obviously they haven't been on defense. We'll have an opportunity at the conclusion of this round to see if Millenium is successful in getting plants down, how does Supremacy hack it?
Well, the odd thing is, you talk about retakes, we'll remind you of Millenium's quote-unquote retake when they were playing against 1UP, now Orglis. That wasn't really a retake, as it did go the way of 1UP at the end.
I mean, the retake was great, but it was finding the diffuser that really presented a problem.
That was literally right in front of the 3 players that were still alive, but hey, it happens to the best players in the world. You shouldn't feel bad once it happens to you.
No, and there's these kind of mistakes are, of course, amplified, and we all make mistakes. It's just you don't have the misfortune of being broadcasted every single time you happen to play a match.
Yeah. Shout out to all the streamers out there.
This is the first time that we are going to see the penthouse upstairs, so on the 5th round, Millenium will have gone to every single site now, as we are in both penthouse and theater, or master and projector, as sometimes they are affectionately referred to as. K6 downstairs running this IQ. We have seen IQ be such a staple so far on Coastline, and there's a lot of gadgetry that does usually get involved, especially with how prevalent we've seen Legion be over the last couple days. So no real surprise to see IQ there, and somebody who I'm glad she's found her place in the meta. I also say that she probably has pushed Ashe out by quite a fair bit. Yeah, it's not, the 5.56 commando is not the R4C of Ashe, but still, very quick. And Ashe is a bit, I think, at this point, possibly too one-dimensional with the fact that her gadget is about as effective as frag grenades, is about effective as Zofia, and the gun is good, but there's guns that can rival it too. Right now, you'll see 2 of Millenium double up, but the Capitao will get 1. That's not supposed to happen. Hicks and Liven should have been able to walk away with that freely, but it'll be Liven who pays for it with his life, and Hicks almost going down 2, so that Capitao almost getting 2 for the price of 1.
That would have been a pretty great deal, but Millenium somehow at least survive with Hicks. They'll have some time to reset if possible, but with 50 seconds left on the clock, and while their opponent's breathing down their necks, at least Hicks will get 1. That's Crisco going down for Supremacy, and, well, literally going down there on the balcony as Supremacy turn it to a 3v4. Millenium keeping their Jaeger alive. Oh, they'll try to pick him up. No, the Doc going down at the end as he goes for the revive, but K6 entering the site. Renshiro on the side. No! Anthrax is ready, and even with the help of the flashbang, even the own flash at the end, cannot save it. Millenium now with last alive. Unfortunately for them, Hicks low on health. The one player that you needed to stay alive, unfortunately, will go down. Supremacy with a pretty tough round here. That's 2 now taken on the attack. But now we get to see how they fare on the defense as we type good half in chat and we take it to round 6.
And that was just a litany of errors committed from Millenium there. Looking the wrong way, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's too many people just not focused on where the push is going to come from. And that was very easy for Supremacy to just pick them apart one by one by one. You saw those 2 kills there right at the very end. And then, of course, Alphama at the start almost getting 2 kills, which really ought not to have happened with the way that Millenium was playing that so aggressively. And you know that that is a point of frustration with them and definitely has repercussions that will go on throughout a round. So we have the same scoreline that we did in our first matchup between Mockit and IDK, and we'll now have Supremacy going on to defense. Their first 6 pick will be a Bandit onto an Echo. As for Millenium, taking their time. I don't know if I would make any changes on Millenium's lineup here. Probably stick with what you have, unless something happens at the very end with that Zofia.
I'm not surprised that the Echo is being brought here by Supremacy. The Pulse has been on and off on Coastline.
Attackers need to locate
depending on the site, you're able to land C4s correctly. To make things work correctly with a Pulse, you need so many things to go right.
Right.
But if you don't hit it, you end up being a huge liability, because now, even if you have teammates that are still around the site, it's going to take you a while to get there to help them out. And by the time you're there, we've seen it so many times where the Pulse is literally the last person alive because everybody got shot down and he wasn't there to help them out. But once you see, oh, that is a sweet spot for a Valcam. I love this spot. That's genius, man.
We've seen this used a couple times, and basically what it does is it can give you full coverage, not just above, but also below. You've got the camera, the default camera right above you. So a lot of people aren't typically going to be looking there because you're really not going to push that side of the site.
I'm going to check it every time I'm playing ranked now.
So it is pretty funny how teams do tend to ape the strategies of pro league teams. And when you see good Valk cameras, you know that that's going to be used everywhere. I mean, it feels like only a couple days after the 6 invitational qualifiers, when Bosco was running the SR25 on Blackbeard, it was as if everybody just retired the Scar in the rest of the game and almost exclusively run that DMR now, as it is so powerful. So definitely take cues from the pros here, folks, if you are watching, especially for these sorts of things, because they spend hours trying to figure out exactly where to toss Valkyrie cameras, C4s, etc.
Yeah, your 2 days of casual over the weekend definitely won't rival the amount of experience that players have in this. These are literally the best players in the world, and you see the Valcam will get spotted and taken out thanks to Yogurt's Zofia downstairs.
And some coordination now as those explosive rounds from the lifeline of Zofia go off to try and dislodge Supremacy playing above. We are at Hookah right now, and the big focal point has been Alfama, as he, as the Jaeger, has just been running all over, trying to avoid the pincers of Millenium as they are situated on the balcony and down below, trying to apply as much pressure as they can. There is no buck available, so they will really be limited to the frag grenades of Rise, should he use them that way, or Yogurt's 2 explosive rounds, as was stated previously. We're just about to hit the halfway mark, though. Everybody is still alive, and you can see that Millenium is trying to ensure that they have everything lined up before they go for this push. For Supremacy, it's going to be hold triangles and just make sure everything goes according to plan.
Well, do you remind you that the Pulse is still available, and there you go. They're going to be spotting in one player behind. I believe that it's the Valkyrie of Anthrax that is set on the site. Just looking around the cameras, and they have not spotted. There you go. You see Anthrax by the bar itself. pool table, and they have not spotted the Velcam that is set up literally right above them.
You've also got Crisco playing below. One of K6's Yokais got taken out there, as you saw very briefly, underneath the pool table. So he will only have one gadget left. Liven in a position to go for the run-in, not knowing that there's somebody down there. That's the Pulse that's playing. One shot will go out from Yagurtz. It'll hit its target. Crisco is gone. That's the Pulse. And now Yagurtz will find Alfama as well. So the Jaeger, who had been on the run so reliably, will meet his demise. 40 seconds left, and Millenium are in good shape. They do have some utility for the defense to work through, but in the meantime, the defense will have to get aggressive and go frag chasing, and that's probably what we're looking at from K6, who has that ACOG out, holding the angle on the bottom of Cool Vibe stairs. He's got the Zofia of Yagurtz there, who, if they do engage in a fight, the low DPS of that gun from Echo will be outdueled, but has the ACOG at least as his advantage. A C4 will get thrown over from Anthrax and find its target. That's Rise eliminated by the pool table. Yagurtz trying to put on some fire from below as Liven runs in, but gets traded off by K6. And at the moment, Supremacy only has a couple seconds to wait it out. Hicks is getting the defuse off, and the Yokai drone will save the day. Supremacy taking the round with an Echo drone once again proving to be the downfall check for the drones on the ceiling. Or else, you end up losing the round, and that's Supremacy tying things up.
Echo, good operator. I think that's what we can get out of all of this. The fact that the attack was so slow. Now, I have to hand it to Yogurtz. He was so good at just holding the rotation angle from all the way on the rooftop. He knows that there's the stairs and the VIP lounge. That's really the positions he's got to be looking for because, well, the other side, it's pretty much locked up by his own teammates. Once those are taken care of, then his teammates can just run onto the site. However, the Echo's positioning and not being contested from below by Cool Vibes, well, you know what? That makes it a lot more difficult for the attackers to run in and still be able to face it. I have to say, the IQ not dealing with the Valkyrie cams and even the Yokai, a bit of a blunder. It's a byproduct of that last 10-second push.
And that's where these operators thrive. When you have an Echo, when you have a smoke, they do the best in that situation. And K6, who has been putting up numbers on the board, also there proving his worth in utility. The 9 kills and 2 assists, not just leading the way in the game and on his team, but also that Echo play was vital to the team. And he basically won the round for them because they didn't manage to find that second Yokai and couldn't figure out where K6 was, and just simply in an act of desperation, Millenium running out of time. So really, really amazing game from K6 so far, and somebody who I don't think has gotten as good of a look on the international stage, somebody who in French circles, the teams know who he is, but outside of that, it's very difficult for North Americans, potentially other Europeans, and those in Latin America as well as APAC to be able to assess somebody who they don't really see all that often. So a good showing on his second match so far here in this season of Pro League.
Let's go on the setup. So on the Legion, very standard from Millenium, as Renshiro, of course, is Blackbeard being banned out. He'll have to play the Hibana, distinctly different operator to be played. Interesting enough, we haven't really seen Bandit this entire matchup. I guess they're kind of expecting lines of sight to be opened up by the Hibana. They're kind of fine with that. And why this is a defense in bars. And we're hoping that the bars are well defended. We saw Millenium defending it perfectly, even able to stabilize things from hookah down into the stairs. And then through that, playing the smoke very close up. That's where you want to have an SMG-11 plus the 870. But Rise will led the first kill on Anthrax. And
it's interesting the way they've been using Rise because they've had him holding on to the Fuser. Usually you see the Hard Breacher holding onto it. And because Blackbeard is out, Renshiro is playing more of a secondary support role. They've been using Liven and Yogurt so far through 2 rounds as the primary frag getters because Renshiro doesn't have that Blackbeard available. Maybe they think that it's better to just simply have him work on support if he's more accustomed to that. Though Rise will get Alfama and Renshiro does get one in the K6. That's the most valuable player, Supremacy, off the board as Crisco will trade it off with Renshiro not lasting too long. So the Hibana, who was on somewhat of a support role, will at least entry there successfully before getting taken out.
Livin will still stay in the aquarium here with the Sledge. He does require a ton of information on what's happening on the set as you hear that T5 SMG spraying in the back with Crisco having it in hand. This is a very vital round as getting that 4th round in means you can play a bit more effectively later on. You get yourself a bit ahead in the advantage. Yogurts will get spotted here. There we go. He's going to throw in one of his concussion grenades as Crisco will fall back down on the stairs and on the bar.
And he needs to get back to site. You cannot let your smoke have to carry all that load himself. Yogurts and Rise, though, losing some health, will now work with everybody frozen in place as Lion's final gadget goes off. Plant going down, and how did Yogurts not see that? He was staring right at Crisco, maybe assuming it was a dead body. I'm not entirely certain, but the last operator was right beneath your nose and able to land the shots. That is puzzling. Maybe
he didn't have his gamer glasses on.
He certainly didn't in that instance, and couldn't see what was right there. You know, it's 80% of what we see is from our eyes. We take in that information from our eyes.
80% of what we see.
About 80%. The other 20% is sound, like echolocation. All right.
At this point, I'm wondering how I'm still. You made the joke about the 24 FPS thing a couple of days ago, and the optometrist within me just wanted to just yell at the monitor.
Did you know that the human eye can't see more than 24 frames per second?
No, not again.
I read it on the internet.
You think someone would actually do that? Go on the internet and lie?
I don't think anybody's ever lied on the internet. You can't just do that.
No.
You can't just
I think
lie
there's
on
like
the internet.
legal repercussions now. You can't post a meme anymore in the
internet. You sign a contract when you get the internet that says you can't lie. Am I the only one to do that?
I think it's a Canadian thing.
It's probably
a Toronto thing.
We don't lie. Canadians don't lie. Millennium. So Millennium losing their first attacking round, but will go on to win their second, and really no, I think, question in my mind as to who deserved that round. It was pretty standard fare for them to be able to pinch Supremacy. They really lost it in that early push. Rise being able to get the first 2 kills was what weakened and set Supremacy back, and they had to make those adjustments. And I think when they rotated to try and get more bodies to take up that map control, at least to keep pressure off the site, Dijus was on there by himself for quite a while, actually. They just weren't able to win those fights. And because they lost the aim battle against Millennium, they had to work on the Legion getting back to site. And I mean, you've got a 4v2 with Lion still available and tons of firepower. That is not easy for you to work on. It's not a site like Kids Dorms on Oregon. It's not a site like Armory on Border where they funnel in through normal points. You're working on the double bar setup, and there are lots of opportunities for you to push there. So Millennium was able to just spread out their numbers and use it strategically, and that's exactly what happened. And there's really no way for Supremacy to try and deal with that. They were in very bad shape for about half that round.
Yep, very much the case. Now Millennium looking for round number 5 for them on the board. If that happened, I'll remind you, it puts them in a position where even if it is tied 5-5, they still get 1 point out of it. Of course, you're looking for the victory, the 3 points up, especially since Millennium's bitter French rivals of Vitality are already a bit higher up on the board. They get to play later on against their Swedish Chaos. What is this? The kitchen here being held by Supremacy. Close angle by the pots and pans. Zeus opening up a bit of an extra angle for his teammate, actually holding up upstairs in Hookah to play with.
I don't know if he actually heard the shots go right by his head of Yogurts, who got the first time actually that we're seeing an Ashe on this particular matchup. He sees the smoke for just a second, but I don't know if the smoke was aware that he was getting under fire because of all the noise that was being caused by him shooting out the ceiling above him. They have lost control of the wall, though, so Supremacy is going to feel a lot of pressure very, very soon, partially because of their own doing, but also because of Ashe's handy-dandy work. One smoke will have to be burned very early to try and push off the attackers as Renshiro sitting inside of security, opening up lots of lines of sight into bomb site B. It will still be the Yokai drones there at their disposal. So for the moment, the defense is not in any particular bad shape. Dijus winning a great fight against Yogurts, but he will be downed, and they will need to see if they can clean up that kill. You can hear the lifelines rattling away, and phones will go unanswered, at least for the time being.
The important part is that they hear the call to the Jaeger that's sitting upstairs. They have not been able to, oh no, the smoke will get burned by the ADS. They required as many of these smoke canisters as possible to make sure that the defenders do not have line of sight. I see the Habana has already come in through the Lamborghini doorway. I'll try to push through into the bathroom. Has already been opened up majorly by the Habana. Hicks with the kill here in the V308. Alfama will go down. As Flurry 2, 1 Livin will go down, and then Crisco with 2 to follow up the call. Second one for the Dokkaebi will come in as the diffuser will get planted. Livin watching the angles. It is now a 3v2. Millenium with the 2 left alive as they use the last smoke. But on the site, Livin will use the time to maneuver around and try to play against the courtyard. Crisco goes for 1, but Rise will refrag. 2 more left alive as they both peek him. The Echo will be down. Rise, last man alive, turns around to the bathroom, but K6 is on the opposite end. Try to go through, but Rise realizes what's going on. Throws in here the Gizmot mine for K6. Comes in. He's going to try to use it to his advantage, possibly sticking the landing, but there's so little time left on the clock, and Rise will clutch it out. Supremacy go down, and Millenium put the 5th round on the board here, Parker. What an explosive play from Rise, and it seems like no matter what, the joke of, haha, rises to the occasion, it's very true.
A 1v3 with the post-plant scenario, tons of the site widely open from not just the Ash charges, but also the ex-Kairos of Hibana, and Rise uses all of those angles and just essentially stalks his prey, trying to find where K6, who has been the standout performer for Supremacy, not just in terms of support, but also in fragging, and Rise able to take that frag and run with it. He got the down, was able to commit to it, and then just waited. And I know that I've said in the past that I am a fan of Rise, and I am, and I do think that he is a player who has shown a huge amount of growth, but I am continuously impressed with his calmness under pressure. He's got ice in his veins. The guy does not choke, and I think that round is perfectly symbolic of that.
Yeah, very much so. It's, you know, you mentioned it. Using every single angle to his advantage. This is what happens when you get hundreds upon thousands of hours of playtime and you get to understand every single position in the game. This is just pure game sense plus great aim training. Works out fine for Rise.
There was also a drone, too, that he was being fed information from, and I think it's important that we give some credit to the rest of his team, because you don't just pull that play off solo. You use the sound cues to your advantage. And there's a good part when you get those 2 frags, you can narrow down what part of the map your opponent is not on. You've just taken one out of courtyard, you've taken one out of the hallway, you know that they're likely not bar, so that really just leaves you with potentially somebody playing at the front of kitchen, which is where we saw the Ella playing, because she wasn't in either of the bars, and possibly main lobby, at which point Rise rotated to the main lobby while holding the angle, possibly through the bathroom should she push that way, but that wasn't how it happened. You saw instead she rotated around the hallway to try and flank Rise in the bathroom, and that's where Rise was after they had done a bit of a role reversal. So yeah, he gets a lot of credit for his team, and it's very difficult to know who was giving him that information. But his own masterful performance will now put his team on match point, and a 1v3 clutch will give Millenium 1 potential round more until they can seal this one away.
Oh no, the first kill for Supremacy. Afama going for a very standard run out. He'll get the kill off of it. This is the way that you want to play against Millenium at the end of the matchup. Surprise them and make sure that they cannot get too comfortable, because once Millenium get that train rolling, it does not stop. They're very much a diesel French car.
You're going to see now some aggression from Millenium have to come out to try to answer this. The E1D, though, does look like it is being a little squandered. The only member of the defense that they will spot is Crisco, as the pulse will be noted twice. You can also hear 2 blasts from the Yokai drone trying to find Rise up top, who needs to be cooled off if Supremacy wants any chance whatsoever in this round, because as we've just seen from the last round and in previous rounds, a numbers advantage is not as safe as you would assume it to be. So they still have a logic bomb at their disposal for Millenium, as well as a EE1D from the Lion, so both of those things are available for them. As for Supremacy, they're loaded to the teeth with both a smoke, a pulse, as well as an echo for that late round hold.
And that was what Supremacy are going for. You know, it's a very ballsy move to do at the basically match point, round point. But you know what? They needed to do something. Millenium already have the advantage, and if they can make them keep on their toes, as Millenium has been doing to Supremacy once they were on the defense, then you know what? That's a sacrifice that has to be made, and it works out perfectly for Supremacy early on. Millenium now, of course, with a man down, will have to use every angle to their advantage, but Dejoux is not going to make that easy.
And being able to get the most out of that utility with what you have left, which is what Supremacy have, has not been easy. This could be a very different story if Alfama, as that Capitao, had been able to use those arrows in a way that helped the rest of his team. I didn't really see anything particularly remarkable about that play, and that's a loss for the team, because Capitao has some fragging potential, yes, but you need him more for that support. Rise will hit the beam. Very frustrating. You mentioned aim training, and I don't think he could make that shot again if he tried. They do draw out the smoke, though, as Rise tries to stick the plant by the bomb site, as logic bombs will now give away some sound cues as to where those defenders might be sitting. A rotate from Millenium will come out as just under 30 seconds are left, and you'll see a couple members try to go for a tank. Crisco takes out Anthrax. Oh no, what is going on downstairs? Hicks will take out Crisco, and now Millenium should have no issue being able to get in, but keep in mind, K6 has that Yokai available. He's gone. Rise gets one, and it's just Alpha Ma left. The Jaeger will have to try to creep his way in and stop a plant in its tracks. Rise going for the plant. He will get it down quite well, and Renshiro is there to seal the deal. Supremacy will fall, and Millenium takes map number 2, or matchup number 2 rather, 6-3.
That's what I was expecting from Millenium. You see, when they were pushing in on this same exact site before, they couldn't deal with the echo. Well, this time they realized, okay, we're gonna try and contest from the bars below, and once that's done, we'll have a clear way through the aquarium into the pool table. Then we can plant easily, and well, the flurry of kills definitely went their way. You're only left with one operator at the end, of course, the Jaeger, and that's not enough to bring it back when you're facing 4 players that have all of their eyes on the one position you can come from. Easy run for Millenium. I have to give it to Supremacy, though. There were some pretty darn impressive plays.